Old Buddy Pulley down here, and Chuck down here. I'm actually Seth, and I didn't fuck that up. That was on purpose today. Well, we sat through an interesting race at Sonoma, guys. Well, we did. Chuck did not because he's useless to this podcast.
Chuck doesn't watch NASCAR.
Chuck doesn't really watch NASCAR. He only likes dirt late models, which is gross. Anyway,
I like sprint cars too.
That's
You're
true.
a fucking waiver.
Don't even start. Don't even start. All right. So, speaking of waivers, 15 minutes after we ended podcasting last week,
If y'all
Kyle
want
Larson,
some shit to drop, just get us to talk about it, because I guarantee you, the second Buddy Pulley wakes up in the morning and hits upload, that shit will hit Twitter.
Yeah, it will. So anyway, obviously, with no controversy whatsoever, Kyle Larson was in fact granted a waiver for missing the Coca-Cola 600. We talked about this to death on a couple of occasions now, since we all knew it was coming at the 600. We talked about it at the Indy 500 podcast, and of course we talked about it last week. But now that it's actually happened, how do we feel about it? In no particular order, Chuck.
They made the right decision. I didn't talk about it last week, but I did 2 weeks ago, and it was really a no-brainer. And if they had denied it, it does them a lot more harm than it would good. It kind of gets rid of the double completely. You leave one of your most popular drivers out of the playoffs. You piss off a lot of people, which they're good at anyway. But yeah, there's not really much to discuss other than they pulled their head out of their you-know-what and made the right decision.
Do we
Buddy
keep
Pulley.
the waiver safe, the waivers
System?
procedure the way it is, Chuck?
Okay, this is where me not preparing comes in.
All right, well, I'll give you a minute. I'll say my thing, give you a second to preparate. Obviously beating a dead horse. We know it was the right decision. My main point is what we need to do in the future for these waivers, because it's just seriously, it's got so convoluted. Like, us talking about waivers is about to send me to damn sensitivity training with Mart and Truex. Like, I would get so frustrated with talking about this shit. But I think we need to totally overhaul everything, because it's like, okay, well, you missed the race because of this. Well, this guy missed the race because of that. Well, that's not exactly the same thing, and he missed a different race than this guy. So it's all stupid. I think we need to either make it, like I said last week, we need to make it where you got to requalify for the playoffs, and then that just be the thing. You don't need a waiver. And the only time you get a waiver is if you are hurt in a cup race and you have to miss a race because of that. That's the only way you get a waiver.
Without having to requalify? Is that what you're saying?
I guess that falls under the, if you haven't already made the playoffs or something. I think either way, I think it should be one of those two things. It's either you got to requalify for the playoffs, or if you get a waiver, you only get a waiver if you get hurt in a cup race. Is what I was saying, essentially.
Okay, so without getting rid of the playoffs or getting rid of winning you're in, because those are off the table, the easiest way to do this is fix the points. What happened this week? Denny Hamlin might as well have not showed up.
Yeah.
He scored 1 point.
So
he scored a whole whopping one more point than Kyle Larson scored at Charlotte for missing a race.
Hey, but God damn it, he got on the flight to Sonoma and he showed up for
That's really not even my point. My point really is, if you want to make sure people don't miss races, make it hurt where it counts. These guys are going for playoff points, and they're going for regular season titles. That's what Kyle Larson's going for right now. He's going for a regular season title. Ultimately, all that happened was that Kyle lessened his chances of winning the regular season title. Obviously, he's back in the lead now, whatever. But that's all that he really did. And it wasn't even by that much. If he'd got caught in a wreck 30 laps into the Coca-Cola 600, it would have been the same outcome.
Yeah.
Basically. So we need to restructure the points format to where actually missing a race hurts. You actually lose something to the competition by not showing up.
Well,
that would take care of this problem. We wouldn't need waivers.
Well,
and then obviously it's different. Hang on real quick, because I think the whole point obviously initially was to keep a team like the 91 from showing up to Chicago, winning a race, and then being like, oh, cool, we're in the playoffs. Even though we haven't run the first 20 races of the season. That's the real point of it. It's not for a actual regular to miss one race and it become a big thing, especially if he's already like the points leader.
It's easy. You just got to be like, hey, at the start of the year, everybody's got to declare points. Obviously, just declare that I'm running the full season. Like, I mean, that takes care of that problem right there.
Yes.
I mean, the showing up and blowing up on lap 1 is not the same thing as not showing up at all. Like, I get it, but because at least you showed up with an opportunity to score points in stages. Whereas if you don't show up, you lose that opportunity to score stage points, to score playoff points, whatever. And we see it comes down to 1 point, a lot of times in these elimination races. So every point does matter. So I think the penalty for missing a race is fine. It's just we got to work on how we deem if they're playoff eligible or not. And it's like ultimately, if Kyle Larson missed the 600, still wins the regular season title or finishes fucking third, whatever. He still was good enough to be in the playoffs this year. Why is it even a discussion? And that goes for anybody, for any reason they miss. Like, if fucking Tony Stewart in 2002, or better yet, Sterling Marlin, say he comes back from breaking his neck. I don't know, some fucking miracle through Coors Light. I don't know. And comes back, and the last 2 races he scores max points, somehow ends up winning a championship and missing 3 races or however many it would have been. No one fucking said shit because he scored the most points. So, I mean, I think it's just so convoluted, and it comes down to, I think a lot of it comes down to leadership in NASCAR. Of like, we got to have all these very specific, intricate rules in place because, we have nobody to, put their foot down and be like, this is how it is. We don't have that. So we have to have 75,000 different rules interpreted by, 100 different people.
Okay. I've thought of my solution. In my opinion, I think they just get rid of them because if there's no waivers, none of these guys are just going to go out and skip a race if there's no waivers. Because they have sponsor obligations. So they can't just, Joey Logano can't just be like, oh, well, Shell can F off for a week. I'm going to go golf. Like, it's not going to happen. So you don't even need a waiver system. You just need, like Buddy said, they just have to declare points. And I'd say, the rule was top 30 in points. I'd make it top 25.
Well, that's getting into that's getting into playoffs.
But just literally just say you have to be top 25 in points and declare points at the beginning of the year. And then the rest will work itself out. Like, nobody's going to go.
The real solution,
the only race this is ever going to happen with is Indy. That's it.
Yeah. The real solution is simply to do points. Top 16 get in. Or 12, sorry. Yeah. Because we need to chop around off the playoffs. But not doing that, I think the biggest thing we can do is I feel like the penalty for showing up shouldn't just be 1 less point than the guy who finishes last. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not, my point isn't that Denny Hamlin shouldn't have showed up to Sonoma. My point is just he should have a leg up on someone who didn't show up to the race by virtue of showing up.
Yeah, he had an opportunity to score points and didn't. I mean,
yes, but he should still score more points than the guy that didn't.
He did. He scored one more point.
Okay, well that's
useless. That's completely fucking useless.
Oh, it's not.
I mean, in the sense that we're talking about it, it is.
It's virtually useless. Back in the day, you wouldn't have had this problem because minimum you scored 43 points for entering a cup race.
I don't know. I've said my piece with it. Hopefully, we won't have to talk about it anymore.
There used to be like 100-point gap between finishing first and 10th.
Yeah.
That was
how long ago was that?
That was
maybe not 100. That's probably exaggerated, but
it was like 150 something. Maybe not from 10th, but it was at least 100 points from first to last.
Well, yeah, it was 180 or 75 points, and then 43 for finishing last. So yeah,
I don't know. Anyway,
I just think the gap is not big enough between them. But anyway, that's fine. It's whatever. Now let's go on to another stupid NASCAR thing. The charter agreement is still not done, which is interesting because there's currently 4 charters available for sale that people are, I guess, actively bidding on. I don't know how you can be bidding on these things right now.
Yeah.
Which 4 are for sale?
The Stewart-Haas ones.
Well, allegedly one of those isn't.
One of them sold. Brent Red bought one.
They actually bought it already?
Yeah.
They said. They claim.
Okay. Anyway, okay. It
was announced. There are 3 available. They bought it. It's been said.
There were 4 on the market. Yeah. Anyway, I wouldn't be buying one of these things right now in this volatile market. NASCAR has come out today. Jim France has come out today and said that they can't offer permanent charters because they're tied to the TV deal.
Yeah. Essentially what they said was, we can't secure y'all if we're not secure.
And Denny Hamlin's response was, permanent charters doesn't cost anything.
On God.
It especially doesn't cost NASCAR anything.
Exactly. Because if NASCAR is worth nothing, the teams are worth nothing. Like, those charters aren't worth a damn thing. Like, I don't know how many times NASCAR is going to fucking come out with some like excuse for why they can't do X, Y, or Z, that it's like, it's Swiss cheese. I can go like that. And like, there's 1 point. There's another argument against it. There's another one. Like, yeah, I'm
just curious. I'm starting to become curious as to why NASCAR even invented this system in the first place. If they're clearly not, it seems to me they're not sold on the idea. Like, where did this come from?
No, it doesn't make any sense. They created this. Well, them and the RTA created this to make the teams have equity, because the teams were getting shit for pennies on the dollar when they shut their doors or whatever. And now they're sitting here like, the audacity of you guys to want these to be worth something. Like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell are we doing? There's a reason why the NFL is kicking our ass. You know why? They got fucking, how much is the NFL franchise or team? A couple billion?
Yeah, the Panthers sold for, I believe, 2.4 billion.
And they are the worst fucking team in the NFL.
They weren't when they sold, to be fair. But anyway, yes.
Well, they are one of the worst teams in the NFL. The quote unquote worst charter in NASCAR sold for $40 million. Now,
that's hardly the same thing, though.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Not exactly the same thing. But a lot of it is because it actually kind of does matter. Because is it not like after 3 years, whatever that charter's average, that's kind of the value of what it's worth, or something? There's some weird thing with it.
Why would a charter's the car a charter's attached to's performance make the charter any more or less valuable by itself?
That's what I don't see.
Because as soon as you buy the charter, it's all dependent on what you do to your car.
Look, man, Peter's not here to tell us. Like,
I mean, clearly it doesn't matter right now because people want charters and they were willing to pay out the ass for them. Right now, probably not. And also there's an influx in the market for them.
Front row apparently paid like 20 to 25 million for the
which is
Stewart-Haas
still a
deal.
lot. And
Still a lot, yeah.
I mean, what was the one sold before? I don't remember which one it was, but the one sold before the Live Fast charter.
I think it was the 2311.
And
The
what did they
second
pay
one.
for it?
Not that. Not nearly. Maybe 20 million.
Maybe
Maybe
20.
15. I don't know.
So I think that one, and we'd already kind of discussed it, how we were pretty sure a couple parties kind of got in on
Yeah, the
that
BJ.
charter.
That's the thing. People are kind of losing their minds because the front row charter sold for 20 whatever, and they're like, well, look at how much they've dropped. Let's set the record straight. The $40 million, that was literally like, we're all gonna chip in, whether it be Justin Marks, whether it be Michael Andretti or Gainbridge, as their fucking Batman costume is, and Spire. They're like, we're gonna kind of we're gonna use this to as a bargaining chip to NASCAR to be like, this is what our charters are worth. So that's why that went for so much. Now, why Bob Jenkins bought a charter for 20 to 25 million when apparently they just got the worst charter negotiation proposal they've ever gotten, I don't know. Bob Jenkins hasn't historically made terrible decisions. He's only signed people to 1-year deals ever, and he let Michael McDowell go. He signed back Ty Gilliland, I guess. He sold a charter to Justin Marks, and then Justin signs the contract, and he's like, actually, no, I don't want to anymore, and rips it up, and is very lucky Justin Marks didn't sue his ass. So I mean, maybe Bob Jenkins just the kind of the scapegoat. They're like, or not the scapegoat, the what do you call it? That you send somebody out to kind of, you know, send somebody out to be the guy to get shot first to see what happens.
The guinea pig?
Guinea pig, thank you. Yeah, I couldn't remember what kind of animal it was, but yeah, maybe he's the guinea pig.
Chuck, do you have an opinion?
I just don't understand the thought
I'm shocked.
behind the mind when Jim France says, well, we can't guarantee you a charter because we can only support you if the TV deals, we're being supported by television, essentially. Well, if you don't have any money, that means you don't exist, and the race teams aren't racing anyway. So you might as well guarantee them that as long as you're going to be around, they can be around too.
So
because
I have a question.
Without you, there is no them.
Yeah.
I don't understand anything NASCAR does anymore, but I definitely don't understand that.
Yeah, I have a question. It's a general question that I know no one in here is going to know for sure, but can they not make the charters themselves permanent, but make the arrangement of that, the actual dollars and percentages, can they not make that on the same a deal that goes with each TV contract? But still, like, hey, by the way, your charters are still, they exist, but we are going to renegotiate. We can renegotiate this every time because the dollars and cents are going to change in how many years? 7, 8, 9, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
7.
So 7. So the actual nuts and bolts of the deal or of the dealings will change by then. So I can understand not wanting to lock in. I can understand from both sides if they didn't want to lock in. A lot of like big NFL players now have, conditions, based off the cap or whatever. So I can understand if the teams or NASCAR, somebody didn't want to be locked in on this, especially if 7 years from now we take a downturn. It's entirely possible. The next gen car is terrible. So I can understand why NASCAR wouldn't be like, hey, we want to be locked into whatever the deal is right now.
Yeah.
So can you not just make the charters permanent and then renegotiate that? Because in the NFL, your team is locked in as long as you're not Dan Snyder or the equivalent. You're not going to be forced to sell your team. But collective bargaining agreements happen every so often. Now that's with players, that's with different other unionized groups, but I don't understand why we can't do that here.
That's a very good question.
That
We're
is
however many years into this charter debate, and I've never heard anybody bring that up. So
yeah, that is a very good
maybe
point.
this is why. Maybe no one's thought of that.
Well, they get paid a lot more money than we do, so I really hope they've thought about it.
Nothing they do tells me that they're
I don't
any
know, dude.
smarter than I
This
am.
whole
And I'm not
Well,
very
okay,
smart either.
Yeah,
Th-
because
what?
you said we could take a downturn because the next gen car sucks. You know how you fix that if you're NASCAR and you're
Yeah, you
thinking,
fix the
man,
damn car, but
maybe
like
you
I
just
don't
fix the
expect them
race car. You don't have to worry about it. But
I know that. You know that.
Look.
Buddy knows that. I don't expect that's going to actually happen.
I don't know shit, and I know that.
Exactly. Like I don't.
This whole situation.
The solutions.
This whole situation's waiver as fuck, man. Let me tell you.
Damn it, buddy. What did we say about using that kind of language on this show?
Hey, man.
Waiver. All right. Moving on. We were in Sonoma this week. And
fucking waiver.
no, we weren't.
A fucking Dr. Pepper all over.
Well, we weren't in Sonoma, Charles.
He's got Dr. Waiver on him.
Oh, that's gross.
Dr. Pepper.
The NASCAR Cup Series was in Sonoma this weekend. A freshly repaved Sonoma, by the way, which I gotta say, again, the second time this year, there's a lot of things that SMI does bad, but these days, repaves aren't one of them. And they've proven that for the third time in the past 3 years.
Yeah.
They do that shit right now.
Yep.
Don't ask Denny Hamlin because he'd say otherwise.
Denny Hamlin has a bone to pick.
What does he know? Smith. He ran 2 laps.
What? Well, in Denny's defense, like I said, that's why I said recently, their track record before Atlanta was really bad.
Yeah.
And it had been for a long time, but they have fixed it. Atlanta, North Wilkesboro, and now Sonoma have all been banger repaves. And as someone who's not a big fan of current Atlanta, I mean, I like it, but I wish it was the old Atlanta. But still, they did a banger job with it. So I will give them the credit that's due there. At least they've got something going for them. Now, if they could put some effort into their facilities, I would like that.
Well, and here's what I'm saying. They've always said they work for the fans. So the fans are the boss. So they want to raise, and that's why our ticket price is so damn high. I guess because they're like, look, we're doing a damn good job with these damn repaves. We need a raise. We're gonna need a.
We work for the fans, but we're gonna charge the same amount for the Bristol Spring race that we do the night race.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So that being said, it was a repave. This race was a complete mess, and not necessarily in a
Dr. Pepper everywhere in here. Holy shit.
Well, maybe you shouldn't have sprayed it all over the place. This race took, like I said, I told Buddy this yesterday when we were recording the rundown from Down Under. Go watch it if you haven't. Obviously, you probably have, but go watch it if you haven't. The entire IndyCar race took place during the first half of the Cup race.
Yeah.
And it was at Road America, which, believe it or not, is twice as long as Sonoma.
Yes.
More than that, actually. But
yes, at least twice. So we need to figure something out with cautions on Cup road courses. It's getting ridiculous.
They're called local yellows, my sir.
I agree. I do agree. They are called local yellows.
All of motorsports has figured out what to do with this problem, except for us. Yep. So this is why maybe they haven't thought of what you just said about the charter deal, because we don't think a lot about. I mean, we don't do a lot of things. Like, I get it. Austin, what's his name, Cindric, like went soaring through the air to infinity and beyond, but he saved it. He kept on going. We didn't need a whole full course caution for that. Like, I don't know. Like, dude, Will Brown sent like 7 people off through the dirt. They kept going. They're all right. Like,
I mean, you know what it's a product of? It's a product of your car sucks and you need to re-rack them you feel like you need to re-rack them as often as humanly possible. Yeah. That's the reason we do this. There's no reason to beat around the bush and pretend it's for some legit competition reason or some legit safety reason. It's not. It's not, okay? It's a Band-Aid, and it's not even a true. It's a fake Band-Aid, really, because the race was not terrible yesterday. It wasn't great, like the actual racing. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. If that race had happened with, say, 4 cautions the entire race, it would have been a lot more bearable to sit through. And like I said, I enjoyed the last half of this race, but that was like once all the crazy shit played through. And then we got some actual good strategy racing. I had a lot of fun with that. It was a good time. But that race took what, 4.5 hours, it felt like. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but damn, it felt like it.
It did. No, I mean, it took a while. Yeah, I mean, we already we've already made this point about the whole cautions deal, and it's a band-aid because that's why we brought back stage cautions. Yeah, I guess we'll break this down in a couple parts. As far as the shit show goes, I don't know. I don't know what to think about the shit show because it was just so out of character for like a road course race in the next gen era. Like we haven't really seen that. We've seen it at Coda that
before the last 3 laps.
Yeah, exactly. Like it didn't really make a whole lot of sense as to why this was. I mean, I guess it was. I don't know.
It was
know.
the repave.
I mean, yeah, I think that, but also like, I mean, is it just? Yeah, I don't know. Either way.
Yeah, I mean, guys can go a little deeper on a repave, and they think they're Superman. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Josh Berry thought he was Superman.
Yeah,
Josh Berry thought he was going to Krypton.
Dude,
literally, I hadn't watched any of the race yet. I opened Twitter. I was at my cousin's baseball game. I opened Twitter and I see somebody posted the Wii bowling thing.
Yeah, I was about to say Eric Jones stuck 3 fingers up Josh Berry's ass and fucking got a strike.
I was like,
that's what happened.
I was like, okay, why is a NASCAR account posting the Wii bowling screen? And then I scroll the next post down, and it's just Josh Berry plowing through 10 cars. And I was like, oh, strike.
Yeah.
Good job, Josh. It was like Bubba Wallace off in the grass, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what happens here. And then it switches the camera, and you just see a heat-seeking missile coming down into turn 11. And I was like,
absolute piss missile.
Yeah. Pretty much.
As far as I don't know, this race was fine. It was very much a shit show, and then it had everything for everybody, I guess. But a lot of times that doesn't. I don't know. It was an okay race, I guess. I don't know. The cautions got annoying. It was caution heavy in the front end. I think I'm not saying it would have necessarily benefited from cautions being spread out throughout the race, but I don't know. I kind of feel the same way about this as I felt about Bristol, in that. And I don't think this is a correct opinion to have, but it's just kind of something short-circuiting in my brain, and we'll work through it together.
This is the time to work through it. So
the tires don't wear; they just get hot. Okay. Well, Bristol they wore, but I more or less mean the reasoning as to why we saw the race we saw is a little bit annoying. But I do. The tire problem, as far as like our tire wear or issue, is not solved, but it was a little bit of a happy accident, I guess, for the fact that, the tires, because they got hot, we were able to see tire quote unquote deg, and which produced a compelling last stint of the race that led to obviously Kyle Larson winning. Yeah, as far as for everything else, I mean, it was people, a whole lot of monkeys out there and only one football to fuck. So that's all.
Never heard that one before.
You never heard that Days of Thunder quote?
I look. Last time I watched Days of Thunder, I was probably like this tall.
You drive by you're still that tall. You drive by the shed every day.
Yeah. Like
that's just true.
The quote is
we're gonna have to have big.
No. The quote is you look like a monkey fucking a football. That's the quote.
Yeah, we've all heard that one. I've never heard. There's a lot of monkeys out here. You've never heard you look like a monkey fucking a football.
No, he just said he had never.
I said
that's not what he said at all. Yeah, that's not what he said, buddy.
Well, it was in the same vein. You should have been able to put 2 and 2 together.
All right. My opinion
Don't talk
of the
about
race,
veins after that. Come on now. Anyway, Chuck, go ahead.
Oh my god.
Go ahead.
Dude, that's what I'm saying, Chuck. I don't know.
So,
Dear God.
my opinion
Did you
of the
mean
race.
vines because we were in Sonoma and like grapevines and like wine and shit? That's what
No,
you
I
meant,
meant like
right?
the big
Shut
fucking.
up! You fucking wafer.
Oh, fucking hold me back, Chuck. Hold me back. Anyway,
Continue.
I had to hold Seth back. I'm sorry. My opinion of the race is definitely different than y'all's because I turned it on after all the bullshit happened.
Well, yeah, if
So-
I fucking watched a NASCAR race like this, yeah, I'd fucking have a different opinion.
So when
Fucking
I
idiot.
if this tells you when I turned it on, the lap after I turned the race on, AJ Allmendinger pitted from the lead. So
AJ Allmendinger was in the race.
last
Yeah.
stint of the
Oh,
race.
okay.
Last stint of the race. It was after Buescher had pitted. So Buescher had already pitted. AJ
Okay.
was like out front, and then he pitted.
was
and then
AJ the last guy that needed to come in?
I don't know.
before like the section of laps where Kyle and Chase were just running the dog shit.
Okay,
out of
actually,
okay.
here,
Anyway.
let's talk about this.
Yeah. So
No,
Hang on,
go
let
ahead.
Chuck
Yeah,
let Chuck
sorry.
cook real quick.
So
Oh wait, no, we don't want dinner with Chuck. Sorry, Chuck. I'm sorry.
no, I already had dinner.
Thank God.
I honestly like it wasn't my favorite thing in the world because I'm not anybody that knows me knows I'm not like a huge road racing fan, but I didn't mind it just because there was shut up, buddy. Don't be asked. There was different strategies happening and we never get that. Now, it kind of made me upset that they literally said on the broadcast like every 2 laps, "Oh, well the reason there's different strategies this was set up by the 8 cautions in the beginning of the race." And I'm like, "Well,
Yeah,
it's sad
it's
that we
true.
have to run around like a bunch of monkeys with our dicks cut off to have a decent strategy race."
No, just doesn't work.
No, I wasn't even talking about your quote. It's just sad because it always feels gimmicky. Every time it happens, it's like, yeah, because we wrecked half the field and that we had to do that to get to a good race. But
The same
at
reason I feel the way I felt about Bristol.
which, now I kind of looking back on it, I kind of understand because of this, but I did enjoy the end. I feel like if Truex had ever, well, I guess it didn't matter. Truex ran out of gas, but if Truex had been able to get around Buescher sooner, I would have liked to see that, to see if Kyle could have still run the 19 down because Truex hung with him for a while up until a lap and a half to go, which is probably when he went, "Oh shit, I'm not going to make it." So that would have been fun to watch. And honestly, I don't think Kyle would have got there because, like we talked about, he would have heated up his tires. And, that's all you have to do with these tires is just get heat in them. And then
Well, Tyler Reddick said that all you had to do was wait a lap and just kind of go easy for a lap and they cool right back down and you can go at it again.
Yeah.
But Tyler Reddick sucks. So
what does he know? He finished 10th with
that's
the
why
second fastest car.
Well, and that was the point I wanted to bring up. How many times is Tyler Reddick gonna like have the fastest car in the first stage of the race and do Jack Diddley Dick with it?
I mean,
he does it a
we
lot.
talked about. Never mind.
That sounds like Kyle Larson from like Ganassi days. So
yeah.
So yeah, it was fun to watch. It just kind of, and I did enjoy the 2 strategies. It just kind of annoyed me how we got to it and the fact that the Fox broadcast just like clamored over it. They were like, "Oh yeah, we had so many cautions at the beginning of the race and now we have this great strategy race." Like, no, stop talking about it. It's not a good thing that we look like a bunch of 12-year-olds driving race cars for a third of the race. Like, stop.
I mean, to be fair though, this happens in every series occasionally.
Yeah. It
I
happened
watched
in IndyCar last week.
It did. I watched the Formula One Montreal Grand Prix. It wasn't this bad, obviously, but like they kind of look like some idiots occasionally there. And they're supposed to be the best in the entire fucking world. So it can happen in any series. Obviously, like you said, IndyCar was really bad last week. In this same way. And
I got it.
Ultimately it did, because if you don't have too many cautions, if you don't have that amount of cautions in that succession like we had, you end up with a fairly simple race strategy wise, where there's like 2 strategies basically. And you probably have a battle at the end between the 5:45 and 9, probably. Maybe the ones up there too.
I have okay, I think this kind of sums it up, and Chuck, you might want to cover your ears here in a minute. It's the box they're kind of put in with the car, and how it's so hard to pass with the car. You gotta you kind of gotta attack, and the more you attack, the more you're gonna make mistakes. And it kind of goes back to it's not, you obviously put it on the drivers because they're making mistakes, but you almost put it into the category of like how Kevin Harvick, how he may or may not have wrecked the field or had his steering break at Talladega in 2015. Kevin Harvick, if he doesn't need to make the playoffs, he doesn't do that. He wouldn't even think of doing something like that, or wrecking Kyle Busch at Martin, or trying to wreck Kyle Busch at Martinsville. He doesn't think about that. But it's a little bit of a, this is what I have to do in this moment to advance in the playoffs, and also give one of those to the system, essentially, by making it look bad. So it's kind of the same deal with that. It's not like we're Carl Edwards and we're just wrecking Brad Keselowski because we're fucking assholes. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, that's how it is. Carl Edwards was a fucking dick and just was like, I'm going to wreck Brad because he tapped me and spun me out at one racetrack, so I'm going to try to kill the kid. Like, no,
and he dumped him at another.
He didn't at all.
He did.
Which one?
Memphis.
That's literally what I just said.
I thought you were talking about Dega.
No, Carl wrecked himself there. But anyway, my point was, there is some sort of agenda behind why we end up wrecking and doing these dumb things. It's not just because we're dumb. That was my whole point. It wasn't necessarily to just shit on Carl Edwards. It was just
we can stop doing that now. That'd be great.
I mean, what are you worried about? He's a Hall of Famer. I can say whatever the fuck I want. It's
I just want to clarify, because I am really hard on NASCAR a lot. I did enjoy the end of the race. I just get annoyed with everything that happens in NASCAR. So take everything I say with a grain of salt, because it's really hard for me to actually be happy with a NASCAR race.
Oh, trust me, I only made it through the first half of this race because it was the other thing that I was watching.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be clear about that. It was not the main, it was not on my TV. It was
I watched IndyCar first. That was the other thing. When I was home before I went to the game, I had the option to turn on Sonoma, and I was like, but Road America. So I turned on IndyCar.
Yeah. I would, if this was the only thing on, I would have absolutely turned it off halfway through. I'd have been like, this is really stupid. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to record it, and then I can just fast forward through the bullshit here in a couple hours.
And some NASCAR podcasts we're like, yeah, we have a podcast about NASCAR.
Well, no, hang on.
That's how we don't want to watch NASCAR.
No, what we talk about is there's a lot of room for improvement that we just refuse to do. And every time we get called out on it, we double down on it. And by we, I mean NASCAR. Yeah. So, no, I think it's our duty as fans and as people who want to have a voice in this, sporting league that we call NASCAR. It's our duty to be like, dude, this kind of sucks. I don't think we're being out of line here. I think this is what we need to be doing. We're going to leave it to the Happy Harvick podcast to blow NASCAR. And by that, I mean Mamba. Like, dude,
I was about to say, Kevin doesn't think, I don't think.
Yeah, Kevin's cool. Mamba won't shut up. Like, dude, I'm sorry.
He is on the payroll.
I understand that, but I can't stand it, and I'm not going to do it. If NASCAR does something great, I'm going to say it. And I have.
That's the difference between you and Chuck. NASCAR does something great. Chuck's going to shut the fuck up or not show up to the show. Like,
Chuck, is that true?
It's 100% true.
I've done it before.
It's true.
I've done it before.
Yeah. So
I don't give them their flowers.
Why? How are they supposed to know they did it right if you don't fucking tell them?
That's everybody else's job.
Everyone else sucks them off all the time. You and I are keeping it real. So when they do it right, we have to keep it real.
That is not true. I don't remember how many episodes ago it was, but I gave them their flowers for something. I remember it. I was sitting here and I said, I'm going to give them their flowers. And I remember it. It's the only time it's happened this year.
Okay, to be fair, there haven't been a lot of opportunities this year. This year's been kind of a dud in my eyes. I don't know how y'all feel about it.
No, that wasn't NASCAR. That was SMI. Never mind. It was about the Wilkesboro repave.
Okay, can we get back on track?
We're having fun.
I think we are on track.
This is fun. We're having fun, buddy.
Look, man.
Look, I'm in control here. I think we're on track. I think this is the mission statement of this show.
Set the reins.
Well, no. Think about it. Hang on. Think about it. When we started this show, we were running that ridiculous. See, that's the word you're supposed to use, Martin. That ridiculous 550 low horsepower, high downforce package. And we started this show called Big Motor, Small Blade. We might have spelled it a little wrong, but we started that. Why did we call it that? Not just because I'd been using that moniker for a year and a half prior, but because it was our mission statement.
Why were you using that moniker?
Because it was our mission statement, and that's what we believed in, and we weren't getting it. So we made an entire show to let everybody know. Literally, first thing I ever said on this podcast was after the Southern 500 in 2021, I said, that was a really great race. We need more big motor, small blade. It's been the mission statement from the beginning to improve NASCAR racing, to make it better than it was. And obviously, that's very hard to do as a fan. The only thing I can do is observe it and let them know what they're doing is not good.
Yeah.
That is what I can do.
W speech, man. That was great.
Yeah, that was good.
You know what I do? You know what I personally do?
Hold on. That put lead in my pencil, dude. Like I'm sitting over here like
How many references to that have we made on this show?
Dude. Like I'm sitting over here like a waiver on a bump on a log. Like just.
All right.
Like,
no, you know what's really bad? This I'm kind of calling myself out because.
Good. Hold yourself accountable, Chuck.
Honest to God, when I think about the
that was a hell of a grace, man. That was a hell of a grace.
When I think about the sport of NASCAR,
sanctioning body,
the sanctioning body.
Thank you, buddy. Oh my God. Go ahead, Chuck.
No, I'm not just some dumb waiver, man.
As a sport, I completely separate the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series. And I see them as two entirely different things that are not related to each other.
They are. One has Shane Van Gisbergen and one doesn't always have Shane Van Gisbergen.
Well, because every time I watch a Cup race, I've gotten to the point where every time I watch a Cup race, I start the race disappointed and something has to cheer me up. In contrast, every time I watch an Xfinity race, I'm excited to watch it. And it's gotten bad to the point where I see them as two entirely different things that are unrelated to one another. So every time something good happens in the Xfinity series, I always, oh yeah, that was great. That was awesome. And then when something stupid happens, I'll call it out. But I have such a hard time, like with Cup, it pisses me off so much that I have a hard time finding.
That's like saying you think your girlfriend and her sister are not the same species because you think her sister is ugly and she's hot.
Wait, hang on. What?
That is the comparison you just made.
No, it's not.
The Xfinity series you are comparing here is your girlfriend. You think she's hot. You think she's great. You think her sister.
Abby, don't watch the show this week.
I'm not being specific about anybody here. I'm just saying. And you think her sister is ugly and annoying, and you think that is the Cup Series.
That is not true.
That is kind of what you just said. I mean, I think that was a very fair,
that was a very good analogy, but if for some reason Abby watches the show this week, that is not true.
Abby, you're not hot. Yes, okay, so anyway, we can move on.
Shit. Anyway,
I'm allowed to say, I'm supposed to say that, okay? I didn't mean that in any way other than I'm supposed to be allowed to say that. Anyway, continue. I think it was a good analogy.
It was a good analogy.
I thought Chuck made a good point.
Like that's how I feel about it at this point. Like, and it's honestly, it's just the Cup Series because I view the Xfinity Series. A lot of times I view the Truck Series the same way. Cars Tour, sprint car racing, dirt late model racing. And the Truck Series, I don't put them on the same pedestal that you put Cup on because, yeah, they're going to do stupid stuff. Half of them have, like, half of them are paying to be there, and the other half are like 17. So, but like Cars Tour, sprint car racing, late model racing, asphalt late model racing. That's not the Cars Tour. I said that already. The Xfinity Series. I just enjoy watching that, and I've gotten to the point. IndyCar. I've gotten to the point that I just don't enjoy watching the Cup Series anymore, and it's kind of sad. Like I can't stand that it's that way. But then when something good happens, I'm just like, yeah, but all the 70 other bad things.
Well, I think that comes from, and this is not meant to be
It's like a
belittling
therapy
at all.
session.
Yeah, well, this is what this turns into because I'm about to go next. But I think for you at least, I think, and this is not meant to be belittling in any way, but you are what 19, 20, so like a lot of your life, the Cup Series has been not as good as it once was.
Yeah.
For me at least, I've accepted that I'm on crack and that NASCAR is my crack. And it's like, it's not good for me sometimes because it pisses me off because we do a lot of dumb shit. And I look at it and I'm like, wow, I really hate that I like this shit because it's like I'm gonna watch this, but it's pissing me off watching this because you look at some of the things that happen, with the car and Martinsville, for instance. I sat there at Martinsville and that was one of the worst races I've ever watched in my life. I'm sitting there at Martinsville looking at this like, wow, this is horrible. Why do I like this? And knowing 100%, guess where my ass is going to be in November? Sitting right here in this exact seat watching the same exact thing happen. And I just have come to accept that I am mentally ill and that, you know what? It is what it is.
Well, this is why I'm actively trying to go to more IndyCar races this season, which is a kind of a tall task because, you know,
They
there
have
aren't
their own
any.
problems in their series.
Well, there aren't any within like 6 hours of here.
Problem.
That is a problem. They need to at some point get in the Southeast other than just Alabama and St. Petersburg. But I'm looking at going to IMSA VIR. I want to do that. Just something different. I'm so numb to the Cup Series at this point.
That's why the Chicago street race was so refreshing. And that's why when we were talking about this the other day, Seth, you were on the fence on whether you were going to go or not. And I
I'm
was
still
like,
on the
dude,
fence.
I was like, dude, it's like literally the least like anything else we do in the Cup Series. And
It was.
so, well, we'll see. It's
I
still
don't trust that it's not going to be that way this time around.
well, either way, that was my point. That's not
I understand
necessarily my point is that's why we enjoyed that so much because it was such a big departure from the Cup Series we've been watching in the past, however many years.
But I'm sorry, Chuck. That is one of those things where we had a great moment in the Cup Series. It's kind of like Bristol. We had a great moment in the Cup Series, but like, what were the steps that led to it? And then you kind of go through it and you're like, oh, this isn't repeatable. And this isn't
why I'm pissed, why I was kind of on the fence about Bristol and hesitant.
Okay. Sorry, Chuck.
What sucks for me personally is I'll kind of take it a step further than what Buddy said. I was at Martinsville watching that same race as a reporter.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it and I'm watching the direction because like Friday night was fun. Saturday night at Martinsville as a reporter was so fun. Like that Saturday night Xfinity race at Martinsville was everything I dreamed of as a kid when I wanted to do this one day.
Yeah.
Like it was awesome. And then Sunday comes around and it was miserable. And you know what? So was Wilkesboro because I was at that one too as a reporter. And I'm sitting there watching it and I'm watching the direction that this sport is going. And I think that is why I am so big boy word disenchanted with it because I know this is the career that I am pursuing and I'm watching it go in a complete opposite direction than what I want it to go in. And I'm sitting there thinking the entire time, is this what I want to do? Because do I want to cover a sport that is going in this direction for the rest of my life if this is the career I'm going to choose? So that's why it's just so frustrating. And in the same sense as Seth, I've found myself like looking into places I can travel to go to sprint car races and big late model races. Like, what would it take for me to go to Florence for the North South? Or what would it take for me to even go to Eldora for the World? Like,
we should go to Knoxville.
we should go to Knoxville.
Not this year, but
not this year. I don't have the money for this year. But
me neither.
like, I've looked at VIR too.
We should do it, Chuck. We should do VIR.
It's extremely frustrating.
It is, but there's a little glimmer of hope. It does seem like they are trying to get the package better. At least Goodyear seems like they're working a little bit harder. And there is a lot more traction behind all of this than there was a year ago.
That's the problem. There's too much traction.
That was so stupid. So
this is why I've sat here and looked like a big stupid waiver on the show for years, because every time I try to make a good point, Seth has to make the dumbest joke.
I'm sorry. It's been way too serious for too long. I had to say something dumb.
And for the past 8 months that they've brought me on this show, I laugh at Seth's stupid jokes. So it's even worse.
Okay. So anyway, like I was saying, it does seem like there is more traction for them moving in the right direction as far as like a competition standpoint. Obviously, there's many other issues, but I think a lot of it had, I think everything has gotten put on hold because of this charter agreement. And I think either way this charter agreement goes, and I think they'll get it worked out to where it's somewhat of a compromise for the teams, I think we'll see the ball start rolling again, because I think the focus will then can finally be put towards, okay, all right, we got that settled. You're happy, I'm happy, you're pissed, I'm pissed, whatever. We still got to survive, and we got to make this car better to do that. So I think there is some light at the end of the tunnel, and that's kind of that's kind of why I come on here and try to at least have some sort of a positive attitude towards it, because it's like, I already know, like I just said, I already know I'm addicted to this shit and it's never going to change. So like, I gotta figure out a way to be more positive about it. It's kind of like getting your heart broken. You can't just sit around being mopey all the time. You got to figure out a lesson to take from it.
Well,
that's a fair analogy. Go ahead.
I really hope you're right. But this is kind of the pitfall I felt like we were all falling into in 2022, where, and we all, I mean, NASCAR, the fan base, everyone kind of was like, oh, we made it. We figured it out. We've got 20 winners this season. Everything's batshit insane. This is what we've been looking for. And I feel like that's kind of why that whole
that was season, also everybody else saying that. We were pretty real about it, and I
don't know. I seem to remember you getting pretty annoyed that I kept coming on here and being like, "This race sucked," and you're like, "What didn't you like about that race?"
By the end of it, I understand. I get where you're at, and that's like, I wouldn't be saying it if I didn't believe it. I'll put it like that. To put a kind of bow on this conversation, to get back around to what we're, the actual race.
What race were we talking about again?
Sonoma. To kind of put a bow on it and kind of come full circle. We get shit done on this podcast. We've done it before. Whether it was actually us, I choose to believe it was, and we all know, as long as it fits my narrative, right? And
it was us.
Yeah. I'm hoping what we're doing is going to change something.
And we've got a rabid fan base of New Zealanders behind us now.
We do,
so
yeah.
And some Australians. I don't want to forget you guys, because you guys are different. We understand.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So what you're saying is we have an entire separate continent on our side.
We do.
That's true. I'm glad you put it that way.
A continent that's home to the greatest race car driver in the fucking world.
Well, no, New Zealand is not a continent.
Well, we have the continent of Australia, which is it's You know what I
New
mean?
Zealand is an island.
I know it's a fucking island. Okay. Anyway,
they get really.
We have everybody down there.
I would like, by the way, I'm going to take this opportunity to personally apologize to everyone for brain farting and calling Cam Waiters last week. I really feel bad about it. So, guys, just understand, of the three of us, I am by far the dumbest redneck. Just forgive me, okay?
So anyway,
I say y'all like
all right,
every other word.
We gotta move forward.
Yeah, we gotta move forward.
This.
All right.
Yeah, what race is this?
The Toyota owners or Toyota Save Mart 350. Anyway, okay.
Might as well just call it the Save Mart 350. Toyota was terrible in this race.
Yeah, kind of. Anyway, we got through the mess that was the first half of this race.
Yeah.
And two distinct strategies opened up, and we saw the guys who were leading through the melee, your Reddick, your Larson, your Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott's, they all stayed out until the very end of stage 2, which they were only able to do because of the cautions. And you had your other guys who all pitted at various times and could make it around the same time. But they had the benefit of they were going to flip the stage, or they had already flipped the stage, put it that way.
Yeah.
So they had track position. There's like a gnat flying around here and it's driving me crazy. Anyway, so I'm not gonna break down everybody, but Kyle Larson, of course, stays out long.
I do want that strategy.
Mm-hmm.
That strategy, there's a couple guys in that deal. The 48, the 99, even the 9 and the 45 too. It only pretty much worked out for the 5.
Yeah, the 1 and the 9 were
everybody else lost on that deal.
Yeah.
And it was a head scratcher for sure, because it was like you guys had all this time to come pit. And it seemed like a lot of them, they didn't go all the way, because here's why Kyle Larson won this race. It's because his bed was made by waiting to pit, and he laid in it by waiting and waiting and waiting and going as far as he could to pit. All these other guys, they kind of like dipped their toe in, was like, we're on this strategy, but like we're going to be on this, the closest to not on this strategy as we can be. And it bit them. Like, that's why it didn't work. And I see this happen all the time, where it's like, we have these, you got to have a fucking engineering degree from NASA and Harvard fucking, tech or whatever fucking school to be a crew chief in the Cup Series. And this happens a lot, where these guys, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. I'm more looking at, especially like the guys like Bowman and Suarez, who were kind of in the back of that pack of cars, who, I mean, their days were completely ruined. Not ruined, but they ended up like 12th and 13th when they were like 4th and 5th. Like, I don't understand how you're a crew chief in the Cup Series and you can't commit to a strategy. Like,
well,
you have all this data in all these war rooms.
Well, you can have all the data in the war rooms you want, but essentially the commitment is I'm willing to risk having a caution come out and finishing 25th, which the 5 team can afford to do because they had 2 wins already. And teams like the 99
who in that pack,
48,
other than Alex Bowman, who in that pack could not afford to go for it?
Okay, the 99 could have afforded to go
exactly. For it. Literally only the 48 can use
But also, I don't think any of those guys had the car that Kyle Larson had. We saw Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick couldn't drive through the field worth of shit.
Well, if you didn't have the car for it, then get on the other strategy then.
Well, you're already not on that strategy. You've missed the boat. Well, you missed the boat by being out in front when 97 cautions came out.
You got to commit to jump those other cars. They didn't commit to jumping those other cars. They were like, we're going to go right down the middle here. And
I don't disagree, but here's the thing that you're not thinking of. And I'm going to take the 45 as a direct example. When they came in and pit right before the end of stage 2, they got jumped by the 5. And pretty much from there on, they were never able to make the inroads. If Kyle Larson is not, what was his delta? I think like 30 seconds ahead of Buescher before he pits. That makes it, because when he came out, he was about 12 seconds back with
He was
what,
8
20
seconds back.
No, when he first came out, he was like 11 or 12 seconds back.
It was 8
Yes,
seconds
he
back.
was. That is
at one point he was at least 10.
Yes. Okay, but anyway, so when that happens, he's around that distance back. That is totally achievable. At this point, Tyler Reddick is buried in traffic like 35 seconds back or 25 or whatever it was. So what made the strategy possible was that the 5 could bang out laps. And now we've seen Kyle Larson is probably the best driver at Sonoma. I don't care. Martin Truex has won more
Larson's
races.
the best road racer in the Cup Series right now. I don't want to hear this Chase Elliott bullshit anymore. Like,
I don't know. Kyle Larson drives like a duck with no wings at COTA, so it makes me have a hard time saying this.
If you remove COTA, he's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you remove COTA, he's probably the best. Yes, and I mean, we've seen that since 2021. But anyway, Tyler Reddick's also been very good, especially in the next gen era. So I just don't think these guys had the car. I don't think that was the right strategy. I think the 5 car was just that good. And obviously the 5 driver is also that good. But I think you take him out, that strategy, obviously you take him out, that strategy doesn't win the race. Obviously.
The only car that I remember staying out as long as Kyle did on that last run, and I don't know how this played out previously because I only saw the last pit cycle.
This is the only time it played out that way.
Yeah, okay.
By the way.
So the only car that really stayed out as long as Kyle did, and I believe that he pitted the lap before, was the 9.
Yeah.
And it kind of worked out.
Yeah, exactly. He ended up the best.
It worked out for Chase.
Got his track position back.
Good as Kyle. That's all it was. He even said, like, yeah, I mean, it worked out for us. He told Bob, like, it worked out for us. We just weren't as good as they were. Because he was much faster than those guys at the end who he was racing with. He couldn't match Kyle's lap times before they pitted, and he wasn't matching them after they pitted, but he did what he had to do to make that strategy work, and Allen committed to it the same way Cliff did. And at the end of the race, he would have caught the 8 and the 1 anyway, but Ross kind of cleaned out the 8 and it helped.
Part of the reason I bring this up is because literally Chase Elliott himself said he thinks the fact that this car is so hard, it's so hard to pass in this car, and track position is becoming so important, has been important. You're starting to see more strategy you're starting to see different strategies throughout a normal race. It seems like guys are getting a little bit more creative with their strategies, and it goes further than just this race, because if this is going to be the name of the game, you guys got to wake the fuck up, because like I said, it seems like this happens a lot where guys they don't commit to a strategy, and it always bites them in the ass. The point is, if you're going to commit, if you're on the pot, shit, or get off the pot, and a lot of these guys are sitting there scrolling through their phones and nothing's happening. So
last thing I'll say about it, and it's not really as much about Kyle as it is Cliff Daniels. That is what makes Cliff Daniels such a good crew chief. And what makes him, I'll go a step further and say, a perfect crew chief.
I wouldn't even
Kyle
say
Larson.
that. I mean,
no.
I would say that,
let me
but
finish my point.
No, I wouldn't even say that. I'm sitting here yelling at the damn TV, and I'm fucking waver. Like,
no, I'm not saying all of what you were.
Go ahead, Chuck.
Cannot talk today. My entire point is partially what you're saying, but partially something else. It's not as much that Cliff committed to the strategy. It's that Cliff does this a lot. He understands Kyle's driving style and his strong suits, and always puts Kyle in the best positions for Kyle to succeed. He understands that Kyle is better on the attack than he is saving his equipment. And that is what makes Cliff Daniels such a good crew chief, and what allows Kyle Larson to make himself look like such a good driver. Not saying he's like not, but like he's able to express his talents because Cliff always puts him in the positions he needs to be in to succeed. And it was just very much blown up on Sunday to where everybody could see it because Cliff knew Kyle is going to be best attacking with this race car, and that's what happened.
I mean, that's the first thing he said when they crossed the line. He said, "I knew you just needed fresher tires."
Yeah,
that's what he said.
I didn't even hear that.
I mean,
so,
Kevin Harvick made a living off of that.
Well, yeah, but also it just shows you can see it in the fact that Kyle trusts Cliff entirely.
He never even asked.
Well, he gets out of the car
to when you don't know shit about the race car.
Well, very much. But you get out of the car and you're like, I didn't know what the hell we were doing, but I just kind of assumed Cliff knew what we were doing. I mean, that's it right there. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, no, that's 100% true. But I don't know. Some of these guys I had a lot of questions for him. Anyway, continue.
We're
done with that one.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Big Tom Ross Chastain is back.
Summary.
Yes. Okay. So before we get to the entire last part, the last top part of the race, or I guess the only last thing to discuss, Kyle Busch and Ross Chastain get into it. And by that, I mean, Kyle Busch got Chastained. Yeah. In turn 4 on the last lap, battling for 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one was pretty bad.
Like I just said, man, big time Ross Chastain is back.
Yeah, this was the worst Chastaining since Darlington last year, I think.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
I ain't got one.
He was on another level yesterday, bro. He was. I mean, he
like
was,
Denny said, vintage Ross.
Vintage Ross, yeah. I mean, he was pissing off Daniel Suarez. I mean, he was driving like a bat out of hell, which I get it. You got to, but I don't know, man. Kyle Busch having bad enough here. You're just going to
Well, the best part is like, you already said about it. I saw a NASCAR post about it or something. Ross said, I don't really know what happened. I got on the brakes and pulled out and tried to miss him, and then I locked up this tire, trying to not hit him, and then I locked up that tire and I still hit him. So I don't know what happened.
Sounds like you knew what happened.
Well, Ross,
I'll tell you what, man. For someone who didn't know, for someone who thought he had an abstract idea of what it was, you sure painted the picture pretty damn well.
Poor Kyle Busch, dude. Like, I literally just wrote about this in a column last week.
He could have saved himself 30 points by not being fucking stupid last week, so I don't really feel that bad for him.
Well, I'm just saying, I just wrote a column about this last week. Kyle Busch is not, like, over the ledge or whatever.
Over the hill. Yeah.
Over the hill, whatever you want to call it. They have just had awful luck this year. And even when they've had good cars, they find a way to shoot themselves in the foot somehow, whether it's Kyle or the team. And they haven't had that many good cars because RCR is not very good right now. So
I kind of want to refute this point because he looks human in an Xfinity and truck too.
Well, those Spire trucks aren't fantastic.
Okay, yeah, but when did Kyle Busch wreck on his own on lap 2 in a truck race?
I mean, Jimmy Johnson used to wreck by himself all the time.
Yeah, that guy sucks. But we're talking about Kyle Busch here.
Okay, all right.
I'm kidding. But hang on. When Jimmy did that, when he really started doing that, what was he? He was over the hill.
Well, okay. I don't think Kyle sucked in an Xfinity car. He was good in the 33 at Charlotte. Sorry, am I yelling?
Yeah.
Well, he hasn't sucked, but he hasn't, like, when was the last time he won an Xfinity race?
When's the last time he was in a JGR car in an Xfinity race?
Okay, so the only way he can win in an Xfinity race is being a JGR car. It sounds like he's washed to me.
I wouldn't say
John Hunter Nemechek can win a fucking JGR car, and he sucks.
Okay.
Well, that's not the same thing.
How is it not the same thing?
John Hunter can win in a JGR car. Kyle Busch,
and apparently Kyle Busch needed to be in a JGR car to win.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
I'm saying, like, he's run one race in a good Xfinity car.
Okay,
either way.
Either way.
Why are we? Yeah, like,
whatever.
I don't
I think
know.
it's entirely possible Kyle Busch's best days are absolutely behind him.
I think it's his car, and I think he doesn't have practice, and I don't even think
It's been 5 years since we've had.
No, listen. I think it's a combination of that, and I think it's a combination of his car. I think a if we had a different car that he could get more practice in, I think he'd be almost as good as he used to be. But we don't have that, and so he seems even worse than he is. I don't think he's as good as he once was, but I don't think he's as bad as maybe it looks that he is. But
I just
you're
think if
only as
5
good.
years in,
You're only as good. You're only as good as your last race.
I think
And
if we're 5 years into this no to limited practice thing, 5 seasons, and he still sucks.
That's fair.
Okay, here's my rebuttal about Kyle. And I think this just kind of points out where RCR went to shit. Kyle's average finish right now is like a spot and a half worse than he was last year. Austin Dillon's average finish is 3.5 spots. No, 3 spots worse than he was last year.
So
we know Austin Dillon is not Kyle
instead
Busch.
of 56th.
We know Austin Dillon's not Kyle Busch, but he is substantially worse than he was last year. After the Atlanta summer race last year, Kyle Busch was 3rd in points because they had good race cars.
Well, we talked about this last week, and you weren't here.
I wasn't here, and I wrote a column about it, so I'm just making my point now. And then they went to Loudon, and they went completely downhill, and they finished, I believe, don't hold me to the numbers, they finished outside the top 20 a good 6 or 7 times. In the same time that Austin Dillon scored 3 times as many outside the top 30s as he did in the first half of that season. And it hasn't gotten any better since then with any of their performance. So between Atlanta and Loudon last year, something happened with those race cars, and they have yet to find the fix. And I think Kyle running as well as he has this year, in comparison to how much worse Austin is this year, to me shows that, yes, Kyle Busch is not what he once was. He's not going to be what he once was. We all know that. But he is also getting the most out of those RCR cars, and he's trying his damn best to get more out of those RCR cars, and I think that's where some of the mistakes come from.
It's a Kevin Harvick,
but it's compounding. It's compounding the issue, though, because when you're struggling and you wreck the car bi-weekly, that compounds the issue.
Well, I think it's similar to a situation that Kevin Harvick had at SHR, where he was getting the most out of the cars. Problem is, Kevin Harvick had a lot better head on his shoulders than Kyle Busch does, and Kyle Busch, him blowing his head off his shoulders, he can get away with that a little bit more when he was in the top equipment. He's not in the top equipment, and it's getting to him, and so that's why it's compounding. But
clearly, Kyle's need to be paid $20 million a year is going to turn out to be the worst decision of his entire career. Like, dude, you're already, I don't know. I'm not going to get back on that one. And I understand there's other things to it, but clearly it's been a detriment to Kyle Busch's career, I think. We've seen JGR still been really good, obviously. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, only time will tell.
Only time will tell.
Yeah.
And then since everyone wants to talk about it, going into turn 11 on the last lap, after this incident, Chase Elliott, boot scoot boogie's the one car out of the way to take 4th, which I didn't realize till today that even happened, to be completely honest with you. I don't think a lot of us did. Yeah, I don't think anybody did. I don't have a problem with this at all, because if you watch a guy go and clean the guy in front of them out.
People have a problem with this?
I've seen a lot of people have a problem with this.
I came onto this show ready to tell the world that this is the best thing Chase Elliott's done in the past ever.
I agree. I don't have a problem with this at all. If you watch a guy go and clean a guy out, you're totally in your right to go in the next corner and just move him.
You all probably listened or watched the rundown from Down Under. I literally said this. I literally said, we see guys be bullies all the time. Austin Hill, Joey Logano were the two examples I gave, and no one gives it back to him. And here's an example of Chase Elliott literally watching out of his, windshield. Ross Chastain boot Kyle Busch out of the way and spin him out, and he gives it right back. That good. That is the sport policing itself, and that's how it should be.
Yeah.
No
rebuttal out of me. I just
yeah.
All right, I'm glad we're all in agreement. I was like reading some of the comments today. I was like, really? Are y'all fucking serious?
Write it down. Monday, June 10th, 2024. We praise Chase Elliott. Don't get fucking used to it.
We did. It's unbelievable. All right. So through all that, Martin Truex Jr. ran out of gas. The crowd went crazy. Who cares? I don't really care.
He said a bad word. He's retiring. Like
that is not the bad word he said, but it sounds similar. Kyle Larson wins. It's his second career win at Sonoma, his 26th win, his 20th win with Hendrick Motorsports, which puts him ahead of Chase Elliott for third all time in Hendrick Motorsports. I'm just saying. Yeah. And that's in 4 seasons. Third win of the season. He's the points leader again. Everyone's harping on the fact
playoffs.
Everyone's harping on the fact that he's 8th in the Winston Cup format. I don't know if anybody noticed or not, but we don't use that format anymore. Guys don't really play with that in mind. They play with this current one in mind, which is rack up stage points and drive like a badass, which Kyle does, and that's why he's the points leader. So I had a fun time with that. Clearly.
Yeah. No, I mean,
yeah.
I think and I'll keep it short and sweet because this is going on long enough. But I mean, it was the same thing I said yesterday with Shane Van Gisbergen. It's the fun part about racing is watching one of the greatest in the world do what they do, and that's what it was yesterday. He, mowed him down from 8 or 12 seconds back, and got the win.
Kyle Larson did Kyle Larson things again. I like that. I like that Valvoline car though. It's cool. Valvoline's one of my favorite sponsors in NASCAR ever.
I think this is the worst one. Other than the instant oil change one.
I like this year's better than last year's.
Wow.
Really, I really liked last year's. Anyway, all right.
Actually, no, I like this year's better than 2 years ago. Sorry.
That's fair. All right. Anyway,
what? So I like Valvoline cars, buddy. Get over it.
We get it. All right. Was this race bitching? Is I? All right. Anyways.
I only saw the part that I saw. Yeah, I'll say yeah.
All right. So Chuck's is on a curve. Because he only watched half.
Because the 2 strategies was intriguing and different to watch. We don't normally get it. And that's the only part I watched. So I played the 5th on the rest of it.
Sure. That's
all right.
That's why.
Sundress and dumbass. My sundress is going to be Cliff Daniels.
What?
He is awesome. And I love him. And he's awesome. Okay.
You have a sundress, Chuck. My sundress
Kyle Larson.
My sundress is Will Brown. Will Brown is my sundress. I think he was robbed of a good finish because no one could beat Pop Special Boy, not on his watch. So I think he would have had a great day. He had an impressive performance up until then, and I like the dude's personality. He's cool. Will Brown. It's my sundress.
Oh, I have a sundress. Since I wasn't on the show yesterday, Shane Van Gisbergen.
That's a great
1 because
sundress.
he won, and 2 because Austin Hill flipped him off, so he decided to be a petty motherfucker, and I love that.
It was awesome. It was
so
awesome.
Shane is my sundress because he's petty, and go Shane. He's cool.
All righty. Dumbass. I'm going to go with Josh Berry, an absolute piss missile into turn 11. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Quite possibly maybe the dumbest thing I've seen since Brian Vickers at Martinsville in 2011. That was goofy.
Chuck, do you have a dumbass by chance?
Austin Hill.
Well, that I'm not gonna take the bait on the obvious.
Ty
Obligatory
Gibbs.
fuck Austin
Dude,
Hill.
nah, dude. Ty Gibbs.
Yeah,
is
that's a
fuck,
really
That
good
is
one.
fair.
That is
That
a
is
Ty
really
Gibbs
good
is a
one.
like you wreck and then you wreck your teammate in after the wreck and then you do a burnout and then you hit Boris said, which I was personally offended by that one. That was just dumb. Like you're an asshole. That's the asshole award
It's fair.
and the dumbass award.
My dumbass is going to be
And hold on, and you're a dumbass for screwing up the pit call too. Like obviously Ty didn't do that, but the 19 team as a collective in the Xfinity race.
my dumbass is I am actually no two. I'm gonna go shoot, neither one of these are good for me. I'm gonna go with NASCAR.
Okay.
For the stupid rule that they put in place for the
We do
Xfinity
have a
Series
Q&A session,
that
so
they can't wrap
Oh God, I
backup
forgot
cars.
about that.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
but it did create Boris Said's really cool black 17 car. So, yeah, that's a dumb rule. I don't know why we can't wrap backup cars. I don't get it.
That is fair. It is a pretty
Because
dumb
we're
rule.
the
All right,
poorest billion-dollar corporation.
aren't they all? Picks. I
I
won
lost.
with Martin Truex Jr., who was second and then wasn't second, and then I kind of freaked for a minute and then realized how bad y'all's picks did.
Yeah.
So I get to go first. There's new asphalt on there. I'm going with Joey Logano.
I knew it.
Yeah. So anyway,
All right. So
I don't even know who I have left.
I'm gonna pick Brad Keselowski. He tested there. Obviously, we know that's been a huge help to everybody. So I'm gonna go with Brad.
so did Kyle Larson.
And he won the inaugural Xfinity race there. So maybe he'll win the inaugural Cup race there.
Give me a second. I'm trying to figure out where I put all the picks I've made. Okay.
God
You know,
forbid
you could have done this before the podcast.
You know, you guys both know why I didn't. Oh no, I already took that guy, didn't I?
Darn. Take him again. Lose a point.
Hey,
I'm about to pick for you.
That's cheating.
Christopher Bell.
All right.
I swear you've picked. No, that was Buddy and I. Never
Yeah,
mind.
I picked Bell twice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So
Cool.
that's been the show. Be sure to tune in next time for the Q&A.
We're
doing it together.
We're doing it on here.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. We didn't do that before, and I was not informed of that. So my apologies.
Yes.
I am not the worst host in the world.
They're just tired of me and they want me to go away.
That's not, I mean, that, but, so we do have the Big Motor Small Blade Q&A session. As most things on the show, it was not very well planned out. We will have it well planned out for next week.
At least more planned out. We can commit to more planned out.
Yes, exactly. Let's see. All right, I got him here. All right, question number 1 comes from our number 1 fan, Cook Virus. Shout out to him. Actually, sorry, Cook Virus, you're getting bumped to the last question because I really like the question.
Okay.
That's kind of cruel.
I like the question, so I'm saving the best for last.
It makes sense mathematically.
Yes. Trey Self, our friend.
Okay.
Our friend Trey. Will luck ever allow Denny Hamlin to win a championship?
No.
No.
Probably not.
No.
I mean, you know what? I'm going to say yes.
Answer with your head, not your dick.
I'm going to say no. I mean, dude, yeah, I don't luck be a lady tonight. I don't know.
Like when he crashed at Homestead this year, I said, "Oh, there it is."
This year?
Last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I'm like, it's the round of 8. I'm like, I'm waiting on it, you know.
It's kind of one of those things. It's like you if you keep the definition of insanity is believing something. What is it?
The definition
Continuing
of
to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Thank you.
Yes. The problem is Denny's doing the right things. So, like, he can't
Clearly,
change
he needs to
anything.
do the wrong things.
Quite possibly. I mean, we've seen plenty of guys do the wrong things and be successful, like Joey Logano twice. So he needs to try that. Don't be good in the regular season. Win one race. Skirt through the first 2 rounds. Win one race that you kind of didn't have any business winning, and then win Phoenix. That's kind of the mold. That's what Ryan Blaney did. He was mid all season last year, won when it counted. You just got to do that, Denny. So you've already fucked up for this year, but for next year, just win you one race early in the season, and then just kind of not like Kyle Larson, but just, get lost for a little bit.
Yeah. Next question from our good friend Fernando. He said, if aliens were to come to Earth, how would you show them NASCAR? That's a hell of a question.
Oh, the 2003 Southern 500 or Darlington finish. That wasn't
No, don't give them that high of expectations.
No, I would show them the 2024 Martinsville Spring Race.
Oh, don't do that to them.
Dude, they would leave. They would go home.
Good. Fuck them.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay.
Not like that.
How would you show them NASCAR? I would show them Big Motor Small Blades NASCAR for Rookies video.
That's true.
He thought this out.
Yeah.
He had the questions already. He's cheating.
Dumbass. And then
I said he thought it out. I knew that.
And then I would show them the Chicago street race from last year.
So
okay.
I'm not giving any reasoning to why. Fernando, we can come over and we can get hammered and watch last year's Chicago street race. It'll be a good time, I promise.
Actually, for real though, I have an extra seat at Darlington. I would take one of the aliens to Darlington and they can sit with me.
That'd probably be a good one. All right.
I would bring them to a Cars Tour race.
That wasn't the question though. The question
I
was
know, but I cheat on tests all the time. I'm just kidding. No, I don't.
Wow.
Holy shit.
I wouldn't say that too loudly.
No, I wouldn't. Okay. Next question was from YouTube. From
that was
Shane.
A joke, by the way.
He had to say that for legal reasons, but
I guess, dude, he didn't have to say a whole lot. Shane Egger, 3332, made a YouTube comment. He said, where do we get one of those SVG flags that's in the background? Well, there's not one in the background of the show, actually. Next question. No, you can get them off of Trackhouse's website or go to the racetrack, which probably out of the range of possibilities for you. So you can go to Trackhouse's website and get one.
Now, does Trackhouse ship to Down Under?
They do. They actually just put out that they have free shipping for a 2-pack of Shane's Portland and Sonoma win.
Shit. There you go. So yeah, there you go. Trackhouse site.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Other than that, I think that was all the questions other than our Cook virus question.
That was 3 and this would make 4. So
yes. If YouTube started making y'all big money, would you be open to going to the Bathurst 1000? Well,
yeah.
Funny enough, you submit this question today, and literally yesterday, Seth and I had a conversation about how we need to make it to the Bathurst 1000. Probably not next year, but probably the year after. So whether or not YouTube is making us the money or not, but you know what? Keep watching and make sure you subscribe, and maybe we can make that happen a little bit quicker.
All we need. We don't need to be making a lot of money. We just need someone to be like, hey, you guys. Yeah. And then like they pay for it. That's all we need.
Exactly.
I mean, that sounds like a small ask, but it's probably not.
We are pretty low maintenance.
We are very low
literally maintenance. I will say, I didn't chime into the conversation, but it was in our group chat. They planned out like every possibility as to how this could happen. So they're 100% serious about it, in case you're wondering.
Yeah.
I would go too. I just chose not to comment, but yeah. They do the planning. I just like show up.
Yeah. We can tell. So anyway, that's been the Big Motor Small Blade Q&A session. We will plan this out better next week. So make sure you keep an eye out on our community tab or on our Instagram page for the Q&A that will come up after every cup race. Other than that, we could finally end the show.
Yes, we can. This has been the Big Motor Small Blade podcast. I've been Seth Dolby. He's been Buddy Pulley, and he's been Chase, aka Chuck. And we'll see y'all next time.
After Iowa, go fuck yourself.